I'll preface this just by saying that some of the opinions I might have today will be my own, some of our company, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who, like I, listening to some of the earlier presentations, are sometimes thinking, well, that's a good point, and other times thinking, oh, that's just rubbish, I don't agree with that at all. And I guess that's exactly what these conferences are for, so certainly encourage that, and I'd like to see more debate and stimulus here. You know, it's a challenging time for a lot of people, and we certainly need to be shaking things up a bit. Right, so yeah, CentraStage is about 6 years old. We're a small company. We're about 30 staff. In the last 12 months, we tripled revenues and probably doubled our staff, and I would imagine close to doubled our client base. So we're a fast-growing small company. We wouldn't see ourselves quite as a startup, but certainly we base ourselves on that culture and that we feel we need to keep innovating. And we certainly see ourselves as the type of player who's rapidly moving up on the market on the incumbents. And certainly we take a lot of the big players out. So I know we've taken IBM out in a couple, and we've taken Dell out in a couple. And whatever industry you're in nowadays, you need to be aware that there are companies like CentraStage who are using new technologies like this to busy reinvent your business models. So it's an important time to be looking at what's coming through. So we do remote management and monitoring from the cloud. Easiest ways to describe it is probably most people are more familiar with things like Microsoft Active Directory or System Center. Effectively, my laptop belongs to the company. If I open up and connect to the network now, it immediately starts sending data to the cloud, analyzing what I'm doing, where I am, if it's actually me on the computer, what I've got installed on that computer, whether it needs patching, whether it's safe, secure, and up to date, it has the right information on. And importantly, if it needs anything new. And transparently, to me, that information is securely flowing upwards into the cloud, and I'm getting patches and security fixes down onto that computer all the time, transparent to the user. If I need help, I can either request it, or someone can come in and automatically fix stuff for me. So that's essentially what we call remote management and monitoring. It's asset management, allowing an organization to have full visibility of their estate, so understanding exactly what's out there. Device management in terms of what software is installed on that device, where it is, who's opening and using it. Monitoring if things are going wrong. So stuff gets fixed before I need to worry about it, or the company can start ordering new hard drives before they actually start collapsing on their servers. Remote support is important because there's always that time when one-on-one help is needed, and users at a conference and suddenly they need to figure out something, what's going on their device, and someone from a central support desk can take it over and sort it out for them. I won't use an analogy, but comprehensive reporting. So just important, a lot of this stuff happens, and we've spoken a bit about managed service providers, and a lot of the work that MSPs do is completely transparent to their customers, so it's important to have reporting in place so they can properly show people what they're doing at the end of the month. So just go through just a couple of the interfaces very quickly, just so people can see the sort of thing I'm talking about. This is looking at a PC somewhere. It's a typical interface showing who's logged on, what's on the device, what they're actually doing on the device, if it's missing any patches, if there are any security problems, etc. Similarly, we do similar sort of thing for BlackBerry devices. So you can see what's going on a phone, again, where it is, who's logged on, what data is on there, etc., securing it, updating the content on that device, and all being done remotely. And if I need to actually attach to a specific device, you can open up the CentraStage, what we call our agent browser, see and have a sort of live look at what's going on the device, take over the device, see the screen, stop, start services. So that's effectively RMM in a nutshell. But the reason that we're here today is it's obviously something that organizations need to provide for their estate. And we came across an opportunity in the UK. It's really a network called the London Grid for Learning. It connects 33 boroughs in central London, school boroughs, 2,500 schools and about 250,000 computers. It's the single largest education network in Europe and potentially globally. I think I'm not sure of a larger one. But let's leave it at Europe for now. Effectively, what they needed is a single tool to be able to control all those devices, make sure that the kids had proper uptime, that There wasn't a problem when people we walked into the ICT suite and half the computers didn't turn on, or they had the wrong software installed on them, or someone plugged in Mrs. Miggins plugged in a USB card and suddenly there was a virus across half the network. So that was the sort of visibility that they actually needed. And there were a couple of different incumbents in there, all using traditional software models or service models, on-site hardware, on-site installations, etc. It's just a lot of disparate tools doing a lot of different things. And the key thing was to secure the entire network. So LGFL were looking for a single system that would secure the entire network, would do everything through a single pane of glass, and could be properly controlled from a central support desk. And that's pretty much where we came in. For that number of devices, this sort of solution can only be provided by a cloud-type solution. There's no on-site sort of technologies that'll scale to that number of devices without obviously a massive investment in technology and probably a team of 50 people looking after it. So we put together a solution for LGFL from our cloud system, where we provided complete audit and visibility of the environment at no cost. So there was no need for them to install anything. All they did was open up a secured network port to allow them to connect into our platform. Suddenly they could order 250,000 devices. They knew what schools had what software, who was short on licenses, who was overpaying for licenses. And when Mr. Brown started maths, all the people in his classroom automatically had clicker 1, 2, 3 for the maths lesson. It was that sort of a concept. Remote support, they're able to take over any single device at any point in time and provide one-on-one remote support if needed. And all of that was done at zero cost. And that was the important thing, zero cost. The schools paid absolutely nothing, and suddenly everything lifted out of the fog into the cloud. But that was the key thing for the schools, that no one else could provide that sort of solution. The only reason we could do it was because it was a cloud-hosted system, and I'll go into a couple of the other things that as to why exactly or how it works. And for the schools, of course, there's an easy upgrade path as well, that should they provide automated software deployment and patch and power management for the devices or security management, there was an easy upgrade path that they could simply click a button and say, okay, I'd like that as well. And obviously that's where the cost starts to come in. We are a commercial business, but again, at a cost that they could afford, and they could only needed to pay for what they used and where they're actually needed. So very important for them. So a key reason of why we were able to do this sort of thing, I always say to people, is scale. Scale is what dominates the cloud business. And unless you're looking at moving to the cloud through a perspective of scale, it's not really cloud. You're simply hosting somewhere else. And as I say, that's probably where my own opinion comes in. But a lot of people talk about going to the cloud, oh, we just host people's servers. Well, that's not cloud. Cloud is services that you provide on demand. Cloud is being able to say, well, I need to be able to batch process a whole lot of images. I can just throw it at this endpoint. It'll come back to me exactly as I want it. It's not, well, someone else will host my image processing system. And that's exactly what we're able to do with CentraStage, is that we can scale on demand. 250,000 devices, well, they can join tomorrow. The system scales on demand. We need more computing power, it just scales automatically on demand. We need more storage, it scales on demand. I don't phone up a provider somewhere and say, well, I need another 10 terabytes of storage. It happens on demand automatically. And that's where we see a scale. And that's where the advantages come in for organizations like ourselves who properly understand what it means to provide services from the cloud. It's a complete wrapped service that scales automatically on demand. And that was really the key element as to how we managed to get that particular contract. We've done that over and over again a good few times. So if I can get to the next slide, yeah, that just shows a bit of our global footprint. So we were able to provide all of that from the cloud. Most of those customers sitting on there, you're sitting in the different countries, and just that bottom graph shows our response rates globally in terms of load times on the web pages, etc. But most of those customers we've never met. They've seen our website and the funny faces and the odd jokes that we make, and they participate in our forums, in our community, but they've simply signed up and said, well, I need to manage 5,000 devices. Clicked a button and they can manage 5,000 devices. We haven't had to provision more hardware, and we haven't had to purchase more licenses. And that's what we've seen really as the power of the cloud. So we talk about cloud, as I say, we very much focus on the provision of services, scalable, elastic, on-demand services, and that's how we see it running. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.